Well, it's finally happening. I'm taking on the massive undertaking of reviewing and ranking every episode of SpongeBob SquarePants, beginning with one of the strongest seasons of the whole show. Much like my previous videos, I will review all of these episodes in chronological order and then rank them all at the end. Unlike previous videos in this series, this time around I plan on enlisting help from others. Unlike some other videos in this series, I have already reviewed a lot of individual SpongeBob episodes, so I decided to include them all in here. They all elicit my opinion well, so they seemed appropriate for this series. Okay, without further ado, let's talk about Season 1 of SpongeBob, shall we? I think this episode just does so much so well. Okay, so this is the pilot for the TV series, the very beginning of everything. Kicking off at SpongeBob's home, him waking up for his big day is a strong place to begin. He's going for the fry cook job at the Krusty Krab. He's nervous but eager. His best mate Patrick is there to give him some solid life advice, which leads him and the spectator on a wild ride. More than anything, this is setting up the status quo. SpongeBob's job is his world, and the Krusty Krab is arguably the most iconic location of the whole show. It makes a lot of sense to begin here. I found the Squidward graffiti to be really funny, especially as this is essentially the first time we ever meet the character, and he is being depicted as a loser. It's harsh, but amusing. Similarly, Mr. Krabs is smelling a wad of money, which fits him well too. So Squidward dislikes SpongeBob and doesn't want him to get the job, which makes sense. Mr. Krabs sends him on a wild goose chase to get rid of him. Miraculously, they have the absurd item in stock, and SpongeBob is able to save Mr. Krabs and Squidward from a frenzy of anchovies. Mr. Krabs is so relieved and impressed that he offers SpongeBob the job on the spot. This is such a strong introduction. We meet the key characters, understand the character motivations, and fully immerse ourselves in this new world. Not to mention the iconic song at the end, along with the fact that SpongeBob offers Patrick the same service as the feeding frenzy. Outstanding beginning. Following on, we have what almost feels like the spiritual pilot of the show. This episode is a very atmospheric silent affair. There's still the truly iconic SpongeBob background music, but absolutely no dialogue here. So Squidward is unhappy with a clam dirtying up his great driveway, so he knocks it into SpongeBob's drive. This small act instigates a need to clean from SpongeBob, so he uses his reef blower to try to deal with the issue. Instead, he winds up ruining Squidward's day, coating the whole of Conch Street in random sand and debris. Visually, this episode is great. Despite the lack of voice acting, it is able to tell a snappy story with these two which never felt too boring. I kind of felt like this one is the foundation for SpongeBob and Squidward's relationship going forward. Not too bad for a short. So, in the last of the sort of pilot trilogy is Tea at the Treedome. This introduces Sandy, another of SpongeBob's close friends, a land squirrel who has somehow managed to survive underwater. We first meet her wrestling a clam, which makes so much sense for her. She enjoys extreme sports and karate, so having this be a debut makes sense. SpongeBob thinks she's in trouble and decides to help her, which says a lot about SpongeBob this early on, that he's quite a selfless character. She in turn invites him over for tea at her tree dome, which is essentially the catalyst of this episode. SpongeBob is nervous about what to do as Sandy is a girl. Patrick offers more sound advice. All he has to do is raise his pinky finger and she will be all over him. This in itself is really funny and stupid. SpongeBob suffers being in an air dome needing water to live. Despite this struggle, he carries on as he wants things to go well with his new friend, up until he and Patrick can no longer take it and collapse in the dome. While this one doesn't actually have much plot, I think it does a good job fleshing out Sandy, SpongeBob and Patrick. It's a good display of their various personality types and once again fleshes the world out more, as this is the first trip to the Tree Dome in the series. I think this is a solid episode actually. We're here already. Arguably the most iconic episode of this season. I don't know why, but in marketing via early release discs or episode highlights on Nickelodeon, it was always this episode. Or whenever there was a SpongeBob reference in expanded media, it would be Bubble Stand. I think this episode is fine. To me, this one is very good at setting up the foundation for the show. We have Squidward attempting to enjoy a day off playing some music, only for it to be continuously interrupted by SpongeBob and Patrick. It's very basic and doesn't have much of a plot, but it feels like the status quo is set now. These three live on the same street and Squidward really isn't thrilled about it. So SpongeBob sets up a bubble stand and charges a quarter for people to blow bubbles. Patrick comes along and learns how to blow a bubble from SpongeBob, despite the fact Patrick isn't paying for the privilege, which is a subtle character reference for Patrick. This part is alright, but not a great deal happens really. I mean, the fluid animation is very good, especially for the show this early on in conception. It's a nice art style and lends itself well. Eventually, Squidward gets annoyed and decides to take on the task of blowing bubbles. Unsurprisingly, he absolutely sucks at it. But still he continues, which I actually like. I think it's very in Squidward's character to keep attempting to show off despite not being able to. Many future episodes such as Skill Crane have attempted this, however this one executes it way better. There's no Squidward torture. I mean, him using SpongeBob's dumb technique only to blow the biggest bubble is funny. While SpongeBob and Patrick chant his name, only for his house to be pulled up into the sky, which is also a lot of fun. I think this one gains momentum towards the end, but there still isn't that much plot to it. Fun watch though. Honestly, I haven't watched this episode in such a long time, but I actually had a really good time with it. I think, and I don't know why, but I thought this episode was a bit rubbish. It definitely wasn't though. So the main crux of this episode is SpongeBob accidentally ripping his pants and as a result getting some good laughs from it. He loved all the attention and decided to continually rip his pants, which must have cost him a lot. Also, has he just got a lot of pants on standby ready for the occasion, I guess. The message about popularity and vanity is very good, especially viewing it through a more modern lens, what with the rise in social media. To me, it really felt like I was watching some idiot on social media repeatedly do the same dumb thing through several videos and posts, and people absolutely loving it. That was very much the vibe to me here. I think if SpongeBob was more disliked as a person, then maybe this would have come through stronger, but as it is, I thought it was a very good message and plot for an episode. While I didn't find a great deal of this one funny, I will admit I found the burger bit to be really good. It's just how annoyed this man seems to be with SpongeBob that made it for me. I think the musical number was quite a powerful and memorable way for SpongeBob to convey to the audience that he was wrong, while apologising to Sandy for treating her badly. His stunt where they all thought he was badly injured only for it to be a joke was in very bad taste. I can't believe that Larry gets introduced into the show before Plankton is. That's crazy to me. I know a lot of these are setting up the show and the greater world building, like this being the first time we see Goo Lagoon. But equally, it's mad that we haven't seen Mr. Krabs or the Krusty Krab since the pilot, 4 episodes ago. Sandy currently has more appearances than Mr. Krabs. I did enjoy this one, to be fair. Much like the past few episodes, this one also feels like setup. This time we get introduced to one of SpongeBob and Patrick's favourite pastimes, jellyfishing, an in-universe game that they love. The actual build-up is amazing. It's so serious and over the top. The fact they linger for a few seconds once the door is open is also so great. I found it very amusing, especially when it all falls flat as they skip away. I also felt like this one didn't have very much plot. Squidward gets badly injured after he accidentally chokes on a jellyfish and rides his bike off a cliff. I still have no idea why his bike exploded, but fair enough. From here, SpongeBob and Patrick attempt to give Squidward the best day ever. He is badly injured and isn't much of a willing participant. One thing I actually love is how mute Squidward is for the majority, ignoring a short conversation early on and the final few words of the episode. He doesn't say anything, yet via expressions and sounds, it's very clear what Squidward is thinking and feeling. Look, I wouldn't call this one Squidward torture as there are decent elements and he is generally treated worse later on, but I would debate it's bordering on it. Like, he's rude to SpongeBob and Patrick and sarcastically brushes them off, but I don't think he deserved what he got. For example, Patrick blowing soup into Squidward's face is slapstick and really funny. This action came from a good place. Patrick was trying to feed his friend. There's no mean-spirited intention here, it's oblivious dumb. which makes the whole thing work. You feel bad for Squiddy, but are aware of what Patrick is attempting and failing. Whereas the giant jellyfish zapping Squidward seems cruel. Yes, Squidward was attempting to capture its child and wax the net against it, but it still feels a bit extreme. Especially when it comes back at the end. Honestly, I wanted it to zap SpongeBob and Patrick on Squidward's behalf. It could just be my reading, but it seemed a bit too much by the end. Like, Squidward went through so much in this episode. I did put a poll out asking what you guys thought, and this was the response. Well, for the first time since Help Wanted, we're back at the Krusty Krab. This is SpongeBob's first on-screen shift since Krabs hired him. I think it's kind of crazy that it's taken this long to see the most staple location again. Although, this is Mr. Krabs' second appearance on the whole show, which didn't feel right either. As the title highlights, this is the episode to introduce one of the best characters and arguably the show's most recognisable antagonist, Sheldon J. Plankton. Mr. Krabs' longtime business rival and enemy, the owner of the Chum Bucket who has dedicated his life to stealing the Krabby Patty formula. As far as introduction episodes go, I think this was quite a strong start for Plankton. He is introduced via a failed attempt to steal the formula. Krabs stops him and flings him onto a plate across the street. This is good. As I said, it's an organic reason for Krabs to explain to SpongeBob who Plankton is. And in this case, SpongeBob is the audience's stand-in. His size seems realistic proportion to other characters. I get it makes sense for the animation to draw him a bit bigger in future as it makes it easier to navigate plot, though it was a detail here I appreciated. We got his famous line almost immediately, which made me chuckle.
I went to college!
I appreciate how strong SpongeBob's character is. Plankton tried to manipulate him into handing the formula over, but SpongeBob stands strong and says no. I think a more modern iteration would have cried and tried to run away scared, or, I don't know, a building would have fallen on Plankton for some unknown reason. I think Plankton breaking into SpongeBob's head and controlling his brain is a nice continuation of that idea. It's evil enough to be his first failed mission, and it's very in character for him to fall to temptation and have it all fall apart. The patty is just so good. We also got a heaping amount of hilarious Plankton sass, which I love.
Shut your mouth, you mediocre clarinet player.
Mediocre?
So yeah, a very enjoyable episode.
Yeah, see, okay. So Naughty Nautical Neighbors, I think, and this is just out of the season 1 batch, I think it's in the middle of the road now that I rewatched it again.
I think the episode is funny, but I don't really feel like there's too much plot or too much like else going on with it. It just sort of happens.
I think episodes like Magic Con Shell episodes like those, I think those ones do a similar gimmick and do it way better.
Yeah, because it is pretty much just, well, it is just SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward trapped in an environment, and it is funnier and more interesting.
Well, yeah, I think Naughty Nautical Neighbors is decent. I think a lot of the jokes don't really I think the jokes are memorable, but they're not. You could never tell me that they came from this episode, if that makes sense.
No, it just sort of feels quite bland. But I think what this episode was trying to do and was trying to go for, because it's like, the 4th or 5th segment, or like episode block of the series. I think it was establishing character dynamics more than anything else. I think it was a good way of showing that like Squidward can be quite cruel to SpongeBob and Patrick, and I think it's just that whole setup, they're living together. I think it was just trying to just basically show off these 3 characters and how they feel about each other.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree.
Something that I found quite interesting on this watch through, and something that I hadn't really thought, but I think it's quite a good thing for series 1, is like the whole episode, like they're playing in the back garden. You see so much more of like Conch Street and them outside of the house than you would normally get in an episode. It feels more lived in, but I think it's just that whole series 1 trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and it's one of those that just didn't really stick going forward.
Because I believe SpongeBob's garage is never it's shown again, but it's shown on a different angle. It's never shown like this again.
I think it's Reef Blower it's shown as well.
And there's also that one later season where they do like the rock band episode.
Oh, where like Plankton's trying to get the formula, so he creates like a rock band with SpongeBob and Squidward in it.
Yeah. I think Naughty Nautical Neighbors is decent. I just don't think it's an episode where like the greatest episode, the greatest joke, in my opinion, from this episode is the gang's all here joke. I think that joke is hilarious. Because I used to reference that joke during the indoor era, that we call it, the indoor era back in the day when we were all stuck inside.
Oh,
I'd always be like, the gang's all here.
I think my favorite bit of the episode is when Squidward goes to play his clarinet, like bigs it up, and then Patrick falls asleep immediately, and you just see the look on Squidward's face of just like anger, and then it cuts. Like that's all it needed. It was just
But overall, I think this is a decent episode. I think it's in the middle of the road. I feel like all the jokes here land. It's just not like, I think the plot itself isn't very like outstanding compared to other plots.
I think it's one of those episodes where if you asked a SpongeBob fan to name all the episodes in Series 1, this might be the episode that they struggle to remember, or the one that they just forget to put down. Because I don't feel like it's memorable.
Because I think none of the jokes feel like they are very specific to this plot. Because I think you could tell a lot of these same jokes in any other episode and they would still work.
I think the most memorable joke or distinct joke is Squidward choking on the fork. That to me feels like the most memorable part of this episode.
Yeah, but that's just because that's the one that really sets off the plot for the rest of the episode. I think you could tell the clarinet joke you mentioned in any other episode, because like I said, it's not the first nor would be the last one there in Squidward's house. So, and then like the gangs all, I could totally see the gangs all here joke being in the episode where Gary leaves SpongeBob for Patrick.
Oh, I thought it may have been the episode where SpongeBob's scared to go outside after he like crashes in Sand Mountain.
That's what I'm saying. That also, like I said, like see that joke could fit in more than one other episode than this one. That's what I'm saying. Like it fits in a lot of other episodes that are better than this one.
I'd agree with you. I think it's just sort of mid Series 1. Like it's not bad, but it's just a bit boring, a bit nothingy, really.
Yeah.
Honestly, this was an episode I forgot existed up until this rewatch, which is kind of insane actually, as it's the first to introduce Mrs. Puff, a popular recurring character. Well, recurring here, modern SpongeBob depicts her as a main character, which is fine. She's very entertaining and has a very unique relationship with SpongeBob. In addition, this episode introduces her boating school, another signature location in Bikini Bottom for the first time. I like that this one was set at a different location. I feel like the majority of Season 1 is either set in the Krusty Krab or at SpongeBob's home. This feels much more expansive as a result. So SpongeBob has anxiety due to his boating exam. When it comes to the oral exam and knowledge of vehicle and laws of the road, he excels. He understands it and knows the theory of how to drive a boat. But the pressure of the exam and the overall control of the boat melts his mind. I like how raw this one went with it. As someone who is an awkward, anxious mess, I think they illustrated this so well. After all of these failed attempts to get his license, SpongeBob feels despondent and annoyed, which is very understandable, while Mrs. Puff equally feels anxious about the whole situation, as most of SpongeBob's driving tests led to her being hospitalized or arrested. The anxiety is exhibited well via both characters here. So after seeing how down in the dumps SpongeBob is, Patrick steps up and helps out his best buddy. This is great. Due to this being Season 1, Patrick is able to function as a normal person and help out his best friend in a good way. Season 1 Patrick is just more naive and a bit dumb, not the brain-dead monster we get later on in the show. He helps SpongeBob by telling him what to do, literally being SpongeBob's voice in his head, and it's going super well, up until SpongeBob feels guilty about cheating. Everything comes crashing down, literally in this case as he destroys the boat again and walks away with no license. I think this is a good message to young people about why you shouldn't cheat, and it is done in an entertaining way. Also, I think this is the first time in this show that we get the "my leg" joke, so that's fun. Pizza Delivery is such a special episode. At its core, it illustrates the heart of the show and why the SpongeBob formula is so amazing when done right. That's SpongeBob and Squidward. You place these two in a difficult situation and off you go. In this case, delivering the first ever Krusty Krab pizza to someone. For the majority of this episode, it is just the two of them alone on the road. The opening set piece does include Mr. Krabs having a phone call with the customer in question, but that's it. From here on out, it's just SpongeBob and Squidward. So, for SpongeBob, he is so happy and excited to be able to hand-deliver the first ever Krusty Krab pizza to the customer. He's so eager and full of energy. He doesn't let anything get him down. Even trickier obstacles for him, such as having to drive the boat, do little to get him down. To Squidward, it's easy. Back up the boat and go. He has a short bluntness with SpongeBob and it ends atrociously. SpongeBob backs the boat as far away from the customer as possible. It leaves he and Squidward abandoned far away from the desired location. I mean, Squidward was already unhappy with the task. He didn't want to deliver the pizza, let alone with SpongeBob for company. In his mind, this is the absolute worst experience possible. This is where a lot of the more iconic moments from this episode begin to present themselves. We have the truly catchy and hilarious Krusty Krab Pizza is the pizza for you and me tune. You know, you're tired, you're walking for miles, and someone like SpongeBob is singing. What jolly fun. This is followed with all the hilarious references to the pioneers and all of the dumb things they did. Squidward listens at first. I mean, he eats coral, which is something. The joke is that the pioneers seem more and more ridiculous to the point that the spectator thinks SpongeBob is just being super naive. Only for a boulder to move. SpongeBob literally drives a huge ass rock out of there. It's such a good and amusing screw the audience joke, while being the absolute best and dumbest way to get the plot moving again. They still have a long way to travel. Not to worry, we have our boulder to drive. A lot of the dialogue and interactions during the whole pizza delivery process show off why the dynamic between these two works so well. It's a child's point of view versus an adult's one. SpongeBob's core focus is delivering the pizza, whereas a more logical adult like Squidward, who is worried about dying, sees the pizza as a source of food, a means to stay alive. While SpongeBob refuses to hand it over, it's for the customer after all. It's the difficulty of the situation that makes their conflict so funny. But this whole thing is presented cleverly and respectfully, like Squidward isn't being punished in the same way Squidward torture episodes would have him be punished. Eventually, when they make it to the customer's house, SpongeBob is proudly and happily ready to hand his food over. He and Squidward went through literal hell and all sorts of awful terrain, but it's fine, the customer has their food. Only the dude is awful. He starts berating SpongeBob for forgetting a drink he didn't even order. He belittles him and accuses him of not caring. This scene is written so well. I wanted to give the guy a slap. He is absolutely the worst. SpongeBob goes to pieces in front of Squidward. He feels like he's failed and can't cope. This pushes Squidward to the brink. He grabs the pizza and gives the guy a piece of his mind.
Another one? Look, I told your little friend I ain't paying for that! Well, this one's on the...
This is single-handedly the best scene of the whole show. After everything they've been through, all the suffering, SpongeBob did it for the customer. So of course Squidward was going to snap. Despite how much Squidward would deny it, he likes SpongeBob and considers him a friend. This gesture proves that Squidward is a good person deep down and will always have SpongeBob's back. It is the peak of the show, and slightly unfortunate that it's the 10th episode of the whole show. The last minute or so is also hilarious. After all of this, he and Squidward were ridiculously close to the Krusty Krab and could even return to work. Squidward's face here is sheer perfection. Pizza Delivery is one of the greatest episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants. It is an absolute triumph. You're probably getting sick of hearing me say, this is the first time that, but once again, we have another first in this episode. We get to meet SpongeBob's parents in this one. Yes, they are unnamed, just Mr. and Mrs. SquarePants, but it's a lot of fun and adds more depth to the world building. So, damn nematodes end up obliterating SpongeBob's house with him and Gary still inside. They're thirsty and drain his pineapple and furniture until there is nothing left but a little pebble. His beloved home is gone, which is actually kind of sad, even if it does get reset at the end. I kind of appreciate just how quickly we're thrown into the conflict. Like, all of these episodes in this season are a maximum of 11 minutes, but still, Right from the opening second, we have the conflict of the plot. We can clearly see where things are going. The rest of the plot is basic. SpongeBob and Patrick attempt to rebuild his house, but just do a terrible job of it. To be fair, this section had some of my favourite jokes from the whole season. SpongeBob turning a pipe and it causing the whole world to spin was so dumb and so funny. I love Patrick's scream as he falls into the sky and back. Speaking of Patrick, the planks of wood falling on him from the sky is also really funny, especially as he unintentionally follows the planks of wood as it hits him. Eventually, SpongeBob gives up and accepts his house is gone. Again, heart-wrenching. Patrick invites him to stay. My god, this scene is hilarious. I'm not big on gross-out humour, but it's so effective here. Patrick's night terrors are amazing. I've had spider night terrors myself, so this landed so much for me. Eventually, this little pebble regrows SpongeBob's house, and Squidward, who is cheering, gets crushed by the foundation. He shouldn't have celebrated too soon. To me, this episode feels very similar in tone and narrative to Naughty Nautical Neighbours, but I think this one has better jokes overall. We got some more firsts. I know, fun, right? So, as the title implies, we get introduced to the legendary crime fighters Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. They're brought to life so tremendously by the late great Ernest Borgnine and Tim Conway. Two phenomenal men whose honour and legacy will live on. Here, they voice the two ex-superheroes who are happily enjoying their retirement. The home, Shady Shoals, is a recurring location in Bikini Bottom and has SpongeBob's new husband working there as a nurse. I like the intro to this one. It felt very much like it was paying homage to the 90s Batman animated series. It was a lot of fun, and again fleshes things out more, which is always a welcome thing for a first season of television. I kind of like the angle of them being older and retired characters. It seems quite refreshing to have in-universe superhero characters. I think it was a good addition to have SpongeBob taken such an interest in a secondary subject to his job or his boating lessons. It's one of those which makes SpongeBob feel much more believable as an actual person. Kind of like Bart Simpson being a massive Krusty the Clown fan on The Simpsons. It's that sort of vibe. The introduction is really funny. SpongeBob and Patrick dressing up as Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy and attempting to take down crime is so funny to me. Especially as they're just tormenting Squidward. I feel so bad for Squiddy here. He literally just wants to sunbathe and chill out, but instead is being berated by children in costume. All of the supervillain stuff is funny though. The plot is more of the same, but instead of Squidward, they're tormenting Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. The conclusion with them deducing that SpongeBob and Patrick are the villains here was accurate and hilarious. I mean, they're pestering and tormenting the elderly. SpongeBob and Patrick, you need to do better. I'm in such a pickle as what to say about this one. I joke, this episode is actually amazing and deserves all the praise it gets. So, by this point, SpongeBob is very comfortable in his role as the fry cook at the Krusty Krab and has built up a following. Regulars swarm to the restaurant for SpongeBob's cooking. His Krabby Patties are just that good. He captures the attention of an ignorant oaf known as Bubble Bass. Initially a minor recurring character of the first series, who will go on to become a series regular in modern SpongeBob for some reason. Plankton is the staple villain, with the Flying Dutchman acting as a secondary villain. The show doesn't need a third. As a one-off here, Bubble Bass is a great character and fits his role so well. So, Bassy Boy comes to the Krusty Krab and recites his truly iconic order.
I'll take a double triple bossy deluxe on a raft, 4x4 animal style, extra shingles with a shimmy and a squeeze, light axle grease, make it cry, burn it and let it swim.
We serve food here, sir.
Which Squidward begrudgingly accepts. SpongeBob slightly arrogantly appears and hands over the order to Bubble Bass. He does this very keenly, like he's looking to impress. The pair have both heard of each other and seem very keen to show off to one another. I really like the way this episode sets this sort of plot device up. It almost feels like a western, as though these two are dueling with each other. The tense music, layout, and reaction from the rest of the characters really sell this idea, that it's two forces about to do battle with one another. Bubble Bass eats and proudly shows off that SpongeBob forgot to put pickles in the burger and arrogantly declares that SpongeBob is not the best and his reputation has been misplaced. Everyone is in shock, especially Mr. Krabs, who has a massive breakdown over the fact he has now lost $2 whole due to this fiasco. After wrecking the confidence of the best worker in the whole restaurant, Bubble Bass just leaves. It seemed like his goal was just to belittle SpongeBob and wreck him, which seems counterintuitive as he's clearly a character who enjoys food there. I figured there might be slightly more plot relevance if he were a food critic, but equally an asshole who wants to destroy someone works too. Due to the events here, SpongeBob is truly broken. He's in a bad mental state and can't continue to work. Everything feels off for him. I can understand this. It's hard to stay focused when you're that rattled, especially when you're so sure that you did your job correctly. In this case, actually put pickles in the burger. Which he did, but we will come back to that shortly. Mr. Krabs sends SpongeBob home to try and get his head cleared and make Squidward the head chef. This goes so badly wrong as Squidward burns everything, including a milkshake. That bit of dialogue will forever have me in stitches.
He burnt my Krabby Patty.
He burnt my fries.
He burnt my shake.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
terrible.
he burnt my shake.
Mr. Krabs sees that a change is needed and he visits SpongeBob. Now, Spongy is in a horrible state. He hasn't been able to sleep, he can't dress himself or make himself food or anything really. Bubble Bass completely wrecks SpongeBob's confidence. I think the build up to this is so good across the episode. We've all experienced similar things where our anxiety has gotten the better of us and we just can't focus. It's crazy that small things such as forgetting an ingredient can have an effect like this, but it works. Mr. Krabs realizes he needs to help SpongeBob break away from this mentality. This is such a good character interaction for the pair of them. Classic SpongeBob often places Mr. Krabs in a more sort of parental role to the rest of the cast, and moments like this really make that shine through. SpongeBob tries and tries, but he just can't seem to break the order. He is so broken and destroyed. He doesn't believe he is able to do anything anymore. Until his outpour, which was the thing that was needed, and his block was finally broken. Shortly after learning of SpongeBob's return to form, the Krusty Krab is once again filled with patrons. Eventually, Bubble Bass follows suit and they have their second showdown. Only this time, SpongeBob catches on to his little trick. He realizes that he was right both times and Bubble Bass gets confronted by everyone else he has swindled. He retreats like a coward and SpongeBob gets all the applause that, quite frankly, he deserves. Although, I would argue Squidward deserved it too. He isn't a fry cook, but equally, he was trying, so go on, give our boy Squiddy some love. Come on, do it. Just comment down below we love Squidward or something. We know Squiddy deserves it. Go on. So, this is another Mrs. Puff's Boat in School episode. She decides it's time to announce who the next hall monitor is. Unfortunately, she has exhausted all other available options for hall monitors and no one wants a second go at it. She ambivalently offers SpongeBob the role, which he fully thrusts everything into. Well, he would if he hadn't dedicated the next 5 hours of his life to the longest speech in human history. SpongeBob is distraught that he won't get the chance to keep the hall safe, so Mrs. Puff allows him to keep the uniform for the next day. In major MCU style, SpongeBob patrols the city, saving people from danger while causing as much collateral damage as possible to cause. While not a great deal else happens for the rest of the episode, I do think all the jokes land here. The open window maniac scene is really funny. A bit out of left field, but fits with what they were going for. A lot of this is just SpongeBob bouncing from situation to situation trying to help, but unintentionally causing damage. It's proof that someone like him shouldn't have a role in authority. The interactions between Patrick and the police officers were funny, and Patrick declaring he doesn't want to be a policeman and that he's scared and wants to go home is just so relatable to me. It's my kind of mentality. I mean, who wants to be scared in the dark? It's scary after all, and it's dark and it's scary. The whole idea that SpongeBob is the maniac that he is trying to stop is funny. It's the fact that him and Patrick are both just so blissfully unaware that SpongeBob is the wanted criminal, it lends itself to just so many jokes. It kind of reminds me of the Mr. Thompson joke from The Simpsons, which is equally amusing. I didn't like the ending very much. This one begins such an annoying trend of Mrs. Puff getting arrested for SpongeBob shenanigans. In this one, SpongeBob befriends a jellyfish that is following him around jellyfish fields and decides he wants it as his pet. This jellyfish seems to love hanging with SpongeBob at first, until it discovers a really catchy beat that it seems to like. This episode is so interesting as it's more or less just SpongeBob surrounded by non-verbal characters. Like Squidward maybe has 2 minutes of screen time for the whole episode, and they're funny, but there isn't an awful lot more to this one. So the jellyfish just doesn't want to stop partying. It's having a good time and wants the best night ever to keep going, which is fair enough. Like any typical uni student, it just wants the boogie to continue. I have had nights out with my buddies where I wish they would go on all night, even if I'm not that much of a dancer like that jellyfish was. The jellyfish ignores SpongeBob's wishes and invites some other jellyfish over to party. I think more of them must have heard all the buzz and turn up. I mean, the tune they're shaking their jelly to is catchy, so I get it. The visuals are very nice. All those bright colours and fluid movement, it's such a spectacle to watch, and I enjoyed it. The idea that they were partying for a solid 18 hours and annoying Squidward as he was trying to sleep is funny. Like, it's really not SpongeBob's fault, but Squidward's anger is really funny. He didn't deserve to be brutally shocked by them all. And just as a little tangent, it was very sweet that his clarinet has a little pillow. He's just such a good boy. I think the message of you can't have wild animals for pets shines through quite well, and considering there is a massive lack of plot, this one does a surprisingly good job on its own merit. Ooh, okay, this is another fun one. It's been so long since we've had a Sandy-centric episode, and this is one that I forget exists most of the time, which is dumb as I think this is a really fun episode. Sandy has built a rocket and is planning on exploring the moon to harvest moon rocks. It's a trip she's done several times before and is really comfortable with. Upon learning of her plans, SpongeBob begs and pleads to go with her to the moon. Eventually, she caves and allows him to tag along. SpongeBob has a crazy notion that aliens exist, which makes sense given he is susceptible to believe in conspiracy theory type deals. I mean, the kelp forest crop circles? Suspicious. Also, I think this is the first mention of the kelp forest in the series so far, which is a great little detail to include. Not to mention just dropping SpongeBob's impressive kill count this early on. A whole graveyard due to his misdemeanors. SpongeBob reluctantly accepts that there is no aliens, but not really. Especially after Patrick shows up with alien repellent for the windows to keep him and Sandy safe from all alien life. They end up taking off in Sandy's rocket, which isn't surprising, not for these two anyway. The jokes and gags are all decent whilst they're in space. They return home believing it's the moon filled with alien counterparts to everyone. Essentially, SpongeBob and Patrick kidnap the whole town and bag them up. Here are some fun details. Mr. Krabs has a pet worm, one who basically never turns up again. And Squidward is wearing the cutest flower pajama gown thing. He is such a sweetie. After bagging up the whole town, SpongeBob thinks he's heading home but crashes the rocket on the real moon. This is where he realises his mistake and that he's just abducted the whole town. I think this is quite an underrated gem actually. It's a solid plot with a lot of decent jokes too. I actually haven't seen this one in the longest time, so it was fun to revisit it for this video. I bet you can guess what I'm going to say. Well, we have another new first in this one. We meet Pearl Krabs, Mr. Krabs' adopted daughter who's a whale. We also see Mr. Krabs' home, his large anchor for the first time, so that's cool. It's his darling daughter Pearl's birthday, and she wants the hit new flipper slippers all her friends have. No doubt it's the latest TikTok trend, and she feels like she needs them for social acceptance amongst peers. So Krabs, who loves a bargain and really doesn't listen to his daughter, bought the finest fisherman boots that $2 can buy you. Neat. I mean, apart from one massive defect, they actually seem like quite a solid fashion statement. He is annoyed that he is out of pocket a whole $2. When he sees SpongeBob, the opportunist inside him decides to exploit a naive young child, which isn't great, even for Mr. Krabs this early into the show. By today's standards, he and Patrick are essentially villains, but I digress. SpongeBob, who decides he wants to be the world's greatest fry cook, decides to buy the boots from Krabs. It costs him his whole paycheck along with some other favours, but soon he is rocking those squeaky boots.
He said it! He said it!
It's from here that Krabs can't seem to get the horrendous squeaking noise out of his head, which is fair and accurate to real life. I mean, the noise is really obnoxious. He can't sleep, he can't do his day-to-day because of the awful squeaking. It feels like a companion piece to Pickles, only Pickles is the much stronger episode of the two. Eventually he snaps, steals the boots and stores them under the floorboards in typical Edgar Allan Poe fashion. Spongebob becomes a blubbering mess, telling Krabs he wasn't ready for the boots. Eventually the noise becomes too much and Krabs confesses. I do like this exchange with Spongebob. It's something the modern show would never do. After all, he is a great fry cook without them. I kind of like to view this as the squeaking is a manifestation of Krabs' guilt. Eventually he takes a vacation with Pearl and can still hear the squeaking. I guess eating the boots was kind of a bad call, huh? Another fun episode, so Spongebob decides to give up the hustle and bustle of his fast food job and live a more recluse life amongst the jellyfish. I mean, relatable? I used to be a manager at Burger King, and I gave that up. Not to live in nature, but still. While I think this works as a plot and fits the personality of someone as young and naive as SpongeBob, I wish there was more of a catalyst for this decision. I know we had SpongeBob getting lost in his imagination, and that was sort of the setup, but I think they could have done a little bit more to push it. Although the meta joke caught me off guard. That was decent.
He took off his pants.
I'll give him a week.
I'll give him 11 minutes.
While in Jellyfish Fields, I wish there was more of SpongeBob struggling to fit into the new surroundings. Like, sure, the jellyfish mostly ignore him at first. He's a sponge and a lot more sentient. They're the in-universe wild animals, I suppose. I did like just how much this decision wrecked Patrick. I think it was the highlight for me in this episode. Because of how much modern SpongeBob has butchered his character, it can be hard to remember just how close these two were. He's just so lost and devastated that he doesn't have his best friend at his side anymore. I think the build-up to Patrick going crazy was paced well too. I think the final showdown of him chasing SpongeBob around trying to put him in a jar would have hit harder and been the emotional bomb they were going for more if it wasn't for all the memes that spawned from this episode. I like that SpongeBob arrived at the conclusion on his own of how miserable it actually is. It's like when someone romanticizes an idea in their head. They build it up to be this perfect and therapeutic thing where oftentimes, even if it's a positive experience, it would never live up to that ideology. Alone, cold, and covered in poisonous sea urchins, SpongeBob realizes how perfect his life was before. He worked a job he loved, had a nice house, nice food, and devout friends that want him around. And also, he has Squidward in his life. I joke, Squiddy is the most devout friend. I really enjoyed this one actually. I should probably begin by stating, I hate this episode so much. I don't think it's funny. I think the characterization is amazing in the worst way. The jokes are truly awful and it depicts Squidward in such a bad manner. Not to mention the terrible one-off character who adds so little to this episode and dynamic. And one more thing. Happy Opposite Day! So, it's a happy thing. Squidward isn't keen to leave Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob and Patrick's shenanigans have made him so overwhelmed with joy that he decides he has to leave. He puts his house up for sale and gets in contact with an awful lady on the phone who doesn't seem confident about selling his house. In a non-desperate attempt to keep SpongeBob and Patrick around and pestering him, Squidward invents the holiday known as Opposite Day. SpongeBob naturally hates it and doesn't embrace it at all. He would have to live his life and day to day the complete opposite of how he would normally and doesn't do it. Patrick completely understands what's happening right from the get-go and is really happy about it. After further chats with SpongeBob, he too decides not to do it. From here, this episode gets a surprising lack of mileage from such a non-dumb concept, and it doesn't thrive. Squidward, who is really sad that he is getting close to selling his house, notices SpongeBob destroy his house. Furniture and foundation are just all over his yard. Squidward is really pleased and enthusiastic to be witnessing this sight. He decides to rebuild the house, while SpongeBob and Patrick reluctantly decide it would be so boring to become Squidward. At which point the lady turns up and SpongeBob fills her in on all the positive things about the house. She is just really comfortable and happy to be around him and Patrick. You can see it in her face. It's really not funny. Eventually, Squidward realizes what has happened and how well it must be going. He gladly rushes over and introduces himself. It's here we get the absolute worst joke of the whole show.
Who are you?
Why, I'm Squidward.
What kind of fool do you take me for?
He's Squidward, he's Squidward, you're Squidward, I'm Squidward! Are there any other Squidwards I should know about?
Meow.
I'm out of here.
This episode is just so bad. I think it's going to be quite low in my rankings, to be honest. It really just has so little going for it. I won't be rewatching it soon, as I laughed so little. Once again, happy opposite day, great episode of the show. This is another really funny episode, and one I used to rewatch fairly regularly as a kid. So Squidward gets the opportunity to host his own talent show at the Krusty Krab, home of the Krabby Patty, as no one else would give it a home. I still think a free pair of socks of every purchase is the better incentive, and would allow a more consistent cash flow, especially coming from someone who wrecks his socks a lot. SpongeBob is really keen to be part of the show, but Squidward believes SpongeBob has no talent and doesn't allow him to be in the show. It's kind of cruel, but I guess it fits the plot. SpongeBob continually tries to show off various talents to Squidward, who just doesn't see it as worthwhile. My personal favourite was the amazing Mr. Absorbency. It did get a bit of a chuckle out of me, I'm not going to lie. Once the show actually begins, it's almost like a mini-series of sketches. In terms of jokes, I think the Gary segment was the funniest, especially as it was an intelligent character like Sandy praising his words. Also, this was the episode that taught me what nepotism meant. The conclusion is by far the funniest section of the whole episode, not just because the whole thing is riddled with memes now, unfortunately, but also fortunately as well. Squidward's confidence in dancing with the birds and the disgust look in the audience faces is sheer perfection. Although this feels like the blueprint to the Bikini Bottom residents who have a reputation for being absolute pricks for no real reason. They're as dumb as the people from Springfield, but arguably more violent. The mopping is such an incredibly dumb way to conclude the episode and feels like such a SpongeBob joke. Had this episode been in, say, Season 3, I would argue a meta edge of SpongeBob's global popularity and Squidward being representative of other Nick shows, but it's way too early in the show's run for that debate. Squidward popping back on stage and mopping whilst getting no applause or cheer made me laugh so hard just now. It's really funny. I think in terms of just firing jokes, this is probably the most amusing episode of the season so far. So this is very much a chalk and cheese kind of setup. SpongeBob and Plankton become besties or whatever. A fine concept, but one I would have thought would have come later on in the show. I figured they would want to establish Plankton more first, but I guess with how kind-natured SpongeBob is as a protagonist, it makes sense to tackle it now. So SpongeBob thwarts yet again another attempt of Plankton's to steal the formula. He runs off with an intact Krabby Patty and our good boy Bobby chases after him. Plankton steals a disguise from a costume store. To be fair, it is a good one. I almost forgot it was a burger for a moment. SpongeBob wholeheartedly believes he is a magician and rambles a story about a magician until Plankton has had enough and confesses. The townsfolk and Squidward absolutely rinse him.
How does it feel to be the most hated thing in Bikini Bottom, Plankton? It hurts, doesn't it? I know!
Damn, Squidward, cool down a bit. I figured after your talent show you would have some sympathy, but apparently not, so... SpongeBob is declared Rookie of the Day, which is awesome. I wish I was Rookie of the Day. I could wear that inflatable donut with pride. It's here SpongeBob decides to befriend Plankton, who is really reluctant at first. They end up having FUN and bonding together. I mean, they even sing the iconic Fun song together and go on a cute little cinema date. I understand why Mr. Krabs would be suspect of Plankton, and to be fair, he played his role well during the interrogation. At the cinema, we get yet another Bubble Bass appearance, so that's 2 so far. And it's revealed that Plankton was using SpongeBob. I wish this wasn't the case. I think it would be such a strong character piece if Plankton had no motive, and Krabs wrecked his true friendship with SpongeBob. If they were so desperate to keep the status quo, then that's the way to do it. That way it gives Plankton much more depth as a character and makes his villainy more understandable going forward. That way he's less one note as an antagonist. Again, this is an episode that I didn't watch all that much growing up, but it was decent. So this is the first episode to introduce Don the Whale. You know, popular recurring character. Yeah, okay, I'm joking. I think all the main cast and locations are established now for the most part. So Muscle Bob decides he wants to work out and get into better shape. He's not happy with his noodle-like arms and starts pumping soft toys, which he struggles with. Like, I know he's a sponge and the show often depicts Muscle Bob as a weakling, but I don't know if these examples in this episode are a bit much, just kind of an extreme. Sandy arrives at the pineapple during Muscle Bob's workout and decides his exercise routine is pointless and he won't make any progress until he starts actually pushing himself. Which is true, but I would argue Sandy's exercise regime is way too extreme. I think it comes down to finding a healthy balance in the middle. Muscle Bob is terrified by the prospect of Sandy crushing his arms to smithereens and bails. I mean, fair. I don't blame Muscle Bob here at all. Back at the pineapple, Muscle Bob sees an advert where an angsty whale is selling inflatable arms to show off your definitely real muscles to people. He gets them and becomes an insufferable egotist, even though he very clearly has no muscle density. He can't even pick a straw up. Again funny, but I figured Sandy or Larry would pick up on the fact that Muscle Bob is lying. You don't know how much I wish armpit farts was an exercise routine. My arms would be huge right now. I mean, I work unloading pallets in retail, so I do actually have some decent muscle density now. Sandy enters herself and Muscle Bob in an anchor tossing contest. The anchors hitting that one guy and chasing him was probably the funniest joke of the whole episode. And I'm not usually that big on slapstick humour. This causing Muscle Bob's arms to pop and for everyone to see that he was lying the whole time. Sandy was very annoyed and disappointed. She created a workout for him which was just clicking a TV remote 100 times. I mean, don't knock it if it works. Clearly Muscle Bob learned a lesson here. Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost, which is my personal favourite of the series.
Of season 1? This is your favorite episode of season 1?
Yeah, but I wouldn't call it the best episode. It's just sort of like my personal favorite. Like, I think it's just really funny, and I think the plot is just kind of ridiculous.
That's fair. I think Squidward the Friendly Ghost is decent. It does a lot of stuff. Like, it even has world building because it does explain the Flying Dutchman's origin.
Yeah, I think that is his first technical appearance on the show before. Does the episode come out before Scaredy Pants? I feel like it does.
I think it does, but like even then, I think obviously there's a chronological order of how episodes work. So even if this came out after Scaredy Pants, this probably would take place before Scaredy Pants. If that makes sense.
I think that the episode does a really good job of establishing just how sort of wacky the whole thing is, just by SpongeBob and Patrick playing that game at the beginning. Like, the game makes no sense whatsoever.
It really doesn't, and it's like, what was their goal in the first place?
I don't know, because it's like chess, but it's also like climbing. It has days of the week in it. It's blowing bubbles. It's just nonsense. And
I will say this now: the fact that people get on Squidward for the Fool's April joke, I think this joke is far worse than what he did in the Fool's April, because he literally convinced these two that they killed him and then forced them to be his slaves.
I could imagine living next door to someone like SpongeBob and Patrick would be the worst. I mean, they just walk into Squidward's house freely whenever they want, despite the fact Squidward's told them several times not to. Like, what
maybe he should lock his doors.
Yeah, fair enough.
Maybe he should lock his doors. Because he doors a lock. We have from the last episode. Now it shows that he has a lock on his door.
But I feel like even with a lock, Patrick would just eat it or something. I don't feel like the lock would stop SpongeBob and Patrick.
And at that point, he can't be wrong. That means they're just breaking into his house. At this point, they're not breaking into his house. They're just walking into his home.
But I mean, Patrick's got powers. He can summon pies from nowhere. So if he wants to get in that house, he will.
That's fair, but at that point, he's breaking in, and now he's just leaving the door open for them. That's all I'm saying. The difference.
Whatever you want, we'll find it. We'll find it.
Cherry pie. Where'd you get that?
I found it.
Well, go find it again.
Okay, but I still feel like just living next door to SpongeBob and Patrick would be a lot for anyone to deal with. So I feel like, yes, Squidward takes it too far. He knows how gullible SpongeBob and Patrick are. But I still feel like, I don't want to say it's deserved because it's not, but I understand where he's coming from a little bit.
That's fine. I understand too, but I'm just saying. All I'm saying is comparative. People get on him for the other one. I get on him more for this one. Because once he was done with them, he decided, "Oh, I'm not dead." So he waited till after they called their literal friends to go bury him, because that's the right thing to do. He wants to say, "Oh yeah, I'm not dead."
My sort of reading of it was that Squidward was sort of getting bored of it. I feel like he may have stopped after they cleared out his cupboard anyway. I think that was sort of the end of it before they decided to try and put him to rest. It's also my favourite gag. The watermelon is like my favourite gag.
The watermelon is funny. I will admit the watermelon is really funny. I also like the pie joke.
Go find it again.
And then he actually does. And then as soon as he finds it, Squidward throws it back in his face.
A banana peeled to your liking, your incorporealness.
One watermelon, fresh from the manure field. Your spookiness.
Yeah, I think Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost, a bit like Opposite Day, is just a really, really stupid concept, and they just run wild with it, and what you get is just such an entertaining, 11 minutes of TV, from start to finish. It's just funny. It's cruel, but it's funny.
Yeah, I also think, unlike Naughty Nautical Neighbors we mentioned before, when Squidward gets his comeuppance, it feels more earned that he deserved it this time. While Naughty Nautical Neighbors, he actually did actively try to fix them, and at the end he got, screwed out over the...
I mean, it was sort of his fault. He did push SpongeBob and Patrick away from each other. He did sort of bring it on himself.
That is true, but then he did try to bring them back together, and then wasn't, at least this time he literally decided, oh, I'm just done messing with you guys and don't want nothing to do with you. I feel like this is more earned, while the other time he actually actively did try to fix it.
I mean, would you say that it's not quite Squidward torture? Would you say it's bordering on it?
I think so, yeah. I think, because like I said, there's episodes where he literally causes the problem and just doesn't even try to fix it, and then there's other episodes, I think Naughty Dog, where he actually actively does try to fix it. Same thing I feel with the next episode we talk about, Fools and Ape. I think all three of these episodes have different forms of what Squidward does, which is kind of interesting.
It's not Squidward sort of causes it, but it's like SpongeBob and Patrick jumped to the assumption, and the Squidward just sort of ran with it. It's not like Squidward ignited the idea of being like, oh, I'm a ghost, I'm going to mess with them. They just assumed it, and Squidward was like, you know what, I'm just going to go with it.
That's fair. But that's what I was just saying. I would say it's just interesting that there's a different, at least in the first season, at bare minimum, there's a different spectrum to how they treat Squidward when he does things.
Yeah, it feels more plot relevant. So this is the classic episode where SpongeBob takes Pearl to her prom. He is effectively the chaperone, as the title so lovingly points out. After Pearl's boyfriend dumps her, she needs a new date for the prom. A load of Fred clones at the Krusty Krab don't seem interested, although with all those legs it would explain how he breaks them all the time. Pearl is distraught, so Krab suggests SpongeBob takes her. I honestly think the plot would have been more interesting if Squidward took her, but then again, her and SpongeBob are closer in age, so it feels more appropriate. SpongeBob starts panicking as he didn't attend his own junior prom, though Patrick did and took his mum as his date. I can't decide if that's really sweet or just kind of creepy, but I think it comes down to Patrick as a character. He's harmless in season 1. SpongeBob creates this contraction to be taller, only it makes him more of a mess as he isn't really able to control his legs. Essentially, he is a walking calamity and wrecks everything. This is once again so relatable to me. I'm a disaster that ruins everything, so I felt this one. Once they arrive, we get to meet Pearl's ex, Mr. Long, tanned and handsome. To be fair, there's just something about him. I can't really explain it. He's just so dreamy. SpongeBob has a lot to live up to. Given how sort of lackluster and to the bone this plot is, I was hoping for some good jokes, but there isn't anything too memorable here. I kind of found Pearl to be quite insufferable in this episode. I think it's whenever she loudly and obnoxiously cries. Seeing Krabs be a good dad was great though. I always love these moments. It could just be paternal instincts kicking in me though. While doing the sponge dance was amusing, especially seeing all the destruction and pain in the background, it's still not the most memorable. I think other versions of this type of thing have been done better. I really like the Rick dance from Rick and Morty. That just feels like a better version of this. While this episode isn't flat out bad, I just don't think there's a lot that it offers really. This is so solid. So for the past 26 months, SpongeBob has consistently won Employee of the Month, an award Mr. Krabs gives out so SpongeBob works harder for no extra money. It is a clever business move to be fair. Wait, so does that mean the past 24 episodes took place over more than 2 years? That's crazy. Ignoring the timeline, I think they wanted a larger amount for dramatic effect, which in this case worked very well. So Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob there's no clear winner, it's neck and neck. Again, I think this was done for two reasons. One, to mess with him, as Krabs and Squidward laughed about it, while also working from a greedy point of view to push SpongeBob to work even harder than he already has been to make Krabs more money. It's savage, but ultimately makes sense from a financial point. This not only pushes SpongeBob to try harder, but equally ignites a rivalry between SpongeBob and Squidward. Well, sort of anyway. I don't think that was Mr. Krabs' goal, but SpongeBob is so naive and felt threatened by Squidward for some reason anyway. Which is dumb, as he was sat down reading a book instead of working, but fair play. I would, however, take a version of SpongeBob exhibiting a range of emotion over a future brain-dead version. I think seeing a more ambitious and ruthless side to him is also really good. From here, he tried some elaborate schemes to keep Squidward from work, all over a dumb award, a picture on the wall of which he's already got 26. This just seems very veiny of SpongeBob. I think he is enjoying the attention and recognition a little bit too much. Even if Squidward was showing some improvement and effort in his work, SpongeBob should support him. They're friends, let someone else have the award for once. But no, he once again breaks into Squidward's house and tries to destroy his alarm clock. To be fair, I did find all of the gags in Squidward's bedroom to be really funny, which is saying something, as I'm not normally the biggest fan of SpongeBob and Patrick breaking into Squidward's house. SpongeBob's giggle in the pillow made me giggle too, and the fact Squidward just has a cupboard filled with alarm clocks is amazing. Squidward had no interest in receiving the Employee of the Month award. SpongeBob was the one who pushed him. He interfered in his life and annoyed him. Had SpongeBob left it alone, the award would have been his. But then there would be no plot. Ambitious Squidward is also a delight to watch, so I was fine with it. And his reasoning for snapping is very understandable, especially as I'm getting older. More times than not, Squidward is in the right. Well, initially anyway. Again, the scene where they're racing off to the Krusty Krab is great. There's so many physical gags, and it just keeps building up and snowballing and snowballing. They both just want it. I think this is the first time in the series that Squidward has had some sort of goal, well, apart from the talent show maybe. I appreciate how they both sort of screw the other one over and rush to the now open Krusty Krab. It becomes so toxic and over the top in the best possible way, and unfortunately, Mr. Krabs suffers as a result, and he really didn't do anything wrong in this episode. At most, he wound SpongeBob up by falsely alluding to Squidward winning the award this time. The episode concludes in an explosive way as lots and lots of Krabby Patties destroy the restaurant and Mr. Krabs loses tons of money. They all embody the award in a way none of them won. This is the first festive episode of the whole show. We have Scaredy Pants, which is set at Halloween. So SpongeBob has garnered a reputation over the years for being incredibly easy to scare. Everyone knows it and everyone does it. The episode opens with Krabs and Squidward telling SpongeBob a scary story about the Dutchman and terrifying him. Not to mention the fact this episode has a recurring joke where a group of kids keep savaging SpongeBob.
Look, it's the haunted mattress.
Okay, here's your candy.
No, please. That was enough of a treat. Thank you. Wasn't that the haunted mattress? I guess he's been demoted to a haunted sleeping bag.
Naturally, after all of this berating year on year, SpongeBob decides he's had enough and wants to be scary too. He enlists the help of Patrick to make him appear scarier and like a ghost. Essentially, Patrick shaves away all his spongy skin around his head and body to remove the square shape and give some anonymity to his costume when he's a ghost. Or I guess the Flying Dutchman, as he was trying to imitate the story from the beginning. It does work, to be fair. He runs about enjoying all the Halloween fun and even gatecrashes the Krusty Krab Halloween party. He and Patrick try to scare people by lowering SpongeBob dressed as the Dutchman. You know, with his bedsheet and wooden shoes to scare everyone at the party. It works at the start. Well, until Patrick gets stung on the ass by a jellyfish, which causes him to freak out and run all over the roof, disorienting SpongeBob and accidentally revealing his square trousers to everyone. It doesn't take long for them to connect the dots to know this is actually SpongeBob messing with them. In terms of gags this episode, the funniest one to me was Mr. Krabs choking on the apple. The face he pulls and the noises he made had me in stitches. I really hope there's a vinyl figure of Krabs like that I can get one day. Outside of the Dutchman's sort of cameo in Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost, this is his first major appearance. He's annoyed at everyone replicating him every year and wants revenge. SpongeBob specifically pisses him off.
This is the straw that broke the camel's back. Out of all the Dutchman costumes I've seen, yours is the most insulting.
Do you mean I'm not scary?
You scary!
The whole Dutchman thing is subverted when he pulls SpongeBob's sheet off to reveal the truly scary face. Everyone follows suit and SpongeBob comes out on top. It's a good episode, I enjoyed it. Oof, okay, this one. So, much like the previous one, this is also sort of a Halloween special, I suppose. These two segments are quite well paired as they're both horror related episodes, except one is better than the other one. This is the dumb one where SpongeBob and Squidward get turned into snails for some reason. So, SpongeBob and Patrick are keen to go to a jellyfishing convention in Ukulele Bottom this weekend. 3 whole days where they will be away from Conch Street. Initially, Squidward says no to watching Fred because he just doesn't want to, which I think is okay. I think being able to say no to things should be more normalised, but he promptly changes his mind when he realises it would mean a weekend away from SpongeBob and Patrick, who make his life hell. I mean, pretty much every episode that has depicted Squidward's home has included SpongeBob and sometimes Patrick just breaking in so far. The only line of dialogue that made me laugh was from this scene.
As in, not here for 3 days?
Yeah, but you've already said you can't do it. We understand.
Don't feel bad, Squidward. The 3 of us can still have our own jellyfish convention at your house.
I changed my mind. You guys deserve a weekend away.
So, Squidward sunbathes for 3 days and forgets all about Fred. Gary. When SpongeBob gets back, he sees Fred in a horrible state and makes Squid stay for a while as the doctor arrives. A generally unhelpful nurse gives SpongeBob some snail plasma to help Fred. Gary slipped up again. When all he actually needed was water. I mean, when you wake up and you feel groggy and horrible, it probably is just water that you need. Squidward accidentally injects SpongeBob and he transforms into a snail. The visual of the transformation is disgusting and Squidward poking the eye stalk is horrible. The way it moves. I get they were trying to pay homage to old school monster movies and I commend them for trying, but this is really not a good episode. Eventually, Squidward accidentally gets injected and also becomes a snail. I still don't know why. Fred, SpongeBob and Squidward sing together. Gary, not Fred, you know what I mean. Patrick gets a bit upset and throws a boot and it hits Squidward. So we end on a tiny bit of Squidward torture. What fun! Yeah, this one isn't the best watch. SB129 is such an incredible episode and arguably the most unique of the whole series. This episode has Squidward accidentally time travelled across different eras. So, in a desperate attempt to get away from SpongeBob and Patrick, Squidward escapes to the Krusty Krab. I don't really feel like Squidward should have had to do this. I mean, he made it perfectly clear to SpongeBob and Patrick he had no interest in spending time with them. Yet, they kept on badgering him. Give the man a break, it's his day off, he just wants to play his instrument and have some squid time. Which is something I think we can all relate to. Despite this, they continue to pursue him and chase him to the Krusty Krab. While I didn't find the first section of this episode to be all that funny, SpongeBob's alarm clock startling Squidward causing him to choke on the clarinet, that was an amusing scene, even if it was at Squidward's expense. Following on from this, Squidward hides out in the freezer and in typical Futurama style accidentally awakes in the future, but a much different time. Everything is all chrome. It's very sterile and dystopian. I think the visuals alone sell the eeriness of this episode so well. I mean, there's a dude who immediately spray paints a newly formed flower as quickly as he can match the rest of the chrome on display. It's so subtle but sells a sense of control, like there's a higher being that has a much stronger control and sense of power over this reality. But yes, even in this warped futuristic version of Bikini Bottom, Squiddy isn't able to escape SpongeBob or any of his clones. Did I say Spongebob? I meant his ancestor, Spongetron, along with his bestie, Paton, where their solution to everything is the necessity to go jellyfishing, much like their ancestors before them. I do like that jellyfishing seems to be the clutch throughout. No matter what Squidward does, he cannot escape this slightly pointless sport. Squidward ultimately decides he can't cope being there and looks for an escape. I understand. I find any new situation to be overwhelming too. I can't even imagine what it must be like for the cephalopod. Eventually, he finds his escape and gets sliced around in a circular motion. Wait, hold on, not the time machine, that's the can opener. He travels again, but this time to the prehistoric era. I love the visuals in the background and the designs of the creatures. The devolved jellyfish are my favourites, I think. Squidward finally believes he has made some peace away from his life, Spongebob and Patrick, and is able to play his instrument. Well, until the badly played clarinet disturbs the cave-dwelling sponge and the cave-dwelling star, who are technically their own creations and are different from Spongegar and Patgar, who we will meet in a future installment of the series. Like I said before, this episode isn't rich with jokes, but the cave starfish breathing in Squidward's face is so awkward but equally funny. Like, in conception, it's atrocious, but it's the slow build and Squidward's reaction that gets me. These two cavemen dudes are scared of jellyfish. They're primitive, but have enough instinct to know they will hurt you. Squidward, in an attempt to get them to leave him alone, inadvertently creates jellyfishing, the very game he hates. It is really a fun full circle moment in this episode. Once again, his clarinet playing upsets these two, so he legs it for the time machine once again. By now, he is noticeably upset, which would make sense, he's lost in time and so alone. He ends up once again alone in the Never Space, Purgatory, or the space in between time and space, whatever you want to call it. This existing within the SpongeBob universe is surprisingly nuanced and deep. This really is the core of this episode. It's Squidward having an existential crisis. He knows he's alone, he knows what his life is, and it gives him the chance to compartmentalize everything. Yes, it's overwhelming and he really struggles to cope, but that is the point. The simple act of teaching cave-dwelling sponge to jellyfish visualizes the importance of SpongeBob and the impact he makes on his life. He's always helping SpongeBob, even if he doesn't always necessarily realize it. Eventually, he is able to break through literally and metaphorically to ignite the time machine. He realizes what value his life really has and how much he appreciates all the people in it. He reunites with SpongeBob and happily accepts his life. I mean, the final dialogue is just so perfect in this one too.
Does this mean you want to go jellyfishing?
No! Ouch! Oh, who's the barnacle head who invented that game anyway?
You are, Squidward.
Okay, so something I haven't really considered in this watch through is SpongeBob's love of karate, another of his interests, and this is the first time it's really explored. A lot of the time, it's the plot tether that ties him and Sandy together, this being the most famous and to the point use of the trope. So SpongeBob and Sandy become absolutely obsessed with fighting each other. They both have such a big love for karate. He knows she's there but can't quite seem to find her. The anticipation in this opening set piece is solid. I also think their fighting scenes are quite entertaining too, and seem to be animated quite well, especially considering the first season is all cell animation. It's a good visual. The issue is SpongeBob's obsession with karate starts bleeding into other aspects of his day-to-day life, like his job. Mr. Krabs starts getting really annoyed by it, and in this instance, I don't really blame him. He's trying to run a business. The last thing he wants is SpongeBob wrecking the reputation of the restaurant. I think it's early enough in the series that I could take Mr. Krabs' threat of firing SpongeBob seriously. And when it does happen, I love the conversation Sandy has with him, pleading for SpongeBob's job back. Seeing an interaction between Sandy and Mr. Krabs is so rare, and it's always a fun thing to see. I mean, the majority of interactions are a combo of SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs. I feel like oftentimes Sandy and Plankton are the afterthoughts, especially in the classic era. I think the ending is so solid. SpongeBob and Sandy struggling with their addiction and the fact they're making sandwiches is also amusing. It's a good message about addiction and delivers in an entertaining manner. Sleepy Time is such a fun episode of the show. It's arguably the most unique episode of the whole season due to its structure alone. The plot is sleep. All of the characters are tucked away at home dreaming. They're happy and comfortable, well, up until SpongeBob invades their dreams and causes havoc. Right, so these characters are established. We're 30 episodes in, we know who the cast are, let's explore them further and give them the spotlight a little bit. That's essentially what this episode is. If I had to compare it to anything else, it's kind of like classic SpongeBob's take on 22 short films from Springfield, one of the most iconic episodes of classic Simpsons, which is a bunch of very short segments highlighting the key players in Springfield. It is a praised episode of the show, and rightly so. The same way Sleepy Time is highly regarded by the SpongeBob community, so much so that a level in Battle for Bikini Bottom is based on this episode. SpongeBob has to do missions in his friends' dreams. Initially, I like that we see SpongeBob's dream and see him get catapulted from it. The addition of Mrs. Puff was great too, and it feels like a celebration of the cast. It feels more concrete and believable for SpongeBob to now exist outside of dreams. The things the characters are all dreaming is excellent. It's a deeper dive into their personalities and helps present their individual values. Like Gary being an intellectual and the one to take care of SpongeBob. We know it's true on the show, but this was just a fun way of presenting it. Or Squidward being a Mozart stand-in and annoying the British kingfish. Patrick playing on a kid's machine and losing the only quarter is really amusing. It's also how the Patrick Star game kicks off, which is cool. Oh, while we're on the subject of games, Creature from the Krusty Krab is also inspired by this concept and has a level where a giant plankton is destroying stuff. So yes, on the whole, a thoroughly enjoyable episode which is beloved by all. Don't you just hate it when you get sick? You feel horrible, have no energy, and don't want to do anything? Well, weirdly enough, that was me this week from when I'm writing this script. I had to take a break at around about the 28th or 29th episode review because I was just so ill. I even missed work, which was fortunate in a sense as I wasn't working, but was also unfortunate in the sense that I now have no money, so you know. Well, in this episode, SpongeBob gets sick, he struggles to sleep and decides to make a sandwich. That decision is very relatable to me, as a 2 AM sandwich sounds amazing. He accidentally leaves the fridge freezer door open overnight and wakes up frozen and feeling like shit. I like that there is a specific terminology for this kind of illness. I think they very easily just could have called the episode sickness or something and just been done with it, but they didn't. I like the idea of the SUDS, a sponge-specific disease. It does a lot of world building and makes it seem that much more personal to SpongeBob. He's aware of it, he has suffered it before, and is scared. It elevates his character, especially in a slightly bare bones plot like this one. I think the additions of Patrick and Sandy are really good here. Sandy is the responsible and adult one who will escort SpongeBob to the doctor, whereas Patrick is the naive, well-meaning, childish friend here. They perform their character archetypes so phenomenally well here. I think Menno Man summed it up so well by stating Patrick is naive and stupid in the classic era. He hasn't got a clue what's going on, but is functional and means well, especially when it comes to SpongeBob and their friendship. This episode is a prime example of it. He makes SpongeBob terrified of the doctor's office, and then leaps at the chance to be SpongeBob's doctor. He has no medical training and has no idea how to help him, but he tries. There is a well-meaning character here, even if it is very misplaced. I think Patrick's remedies are really amusing, and plugging the holes is a good setup as a plot device. I think this episode has such a good message about not fearing the doctor when you get sick. That would relate to children so well. Remember, it doesn't matter if you're sick, Dr. Patrick will be there to help.
Don't touch me, I'm sterile!
Happy early Valentine's Day to y'all. Right, I guess this qualifies as a holiday episode like Scaredy Pants or Christmas Who. But I don't know, it feels more forgettable. So SpongeBob, being the general simp that he is, gives everyone that he has ever met a Valentine's Day gift. I joke about the simp part, as it's a very nice gesture, although I do question how he would be able to do this on a fry cook salary. I mean, he bought a stranger a bike, sweet but also borderline creepy. So the whole plot revolves around SpongeBob wanting to give his number one bestie Squidward a perfect Valentine's. Whoops, sorry, I meant Patrick. So SpongeBob plans on giving Patrick an amazing gift that he will love once they're both at the Valentine's Day carnival together. That's essentially the crux of what's happening here. This wasn't the funniest episode overall, but the rock joke at the beginning made me chuckle, even if it felt like the sort of joke they would slip into Patrick nowadays.
Hi, Patrick.
Hello?
Patrick, it's me, Spongebob.
SpongeBob, what are you doing in there?
Patrick?
Oh my gosh! SpongeBob's stuck inside this rock! Ah, hold on, buddy! I'll get you out! SpongeBob! SpongeBob!
Patrick?
SpongeBob! SpongeBob!
Patrick, I'm right behind you.
There you are!
So SpongeBob is building up Patrick's day. He takes him out, gets him very excited for this incredible Valentine's Day gift he is about to receive. At first, Patrick listing everyone he sees as possible gifts was amusing, but it grew stale quite quickly in my opinion. Screw a chocolate balloon, we all know the best gift would have been...
This guy?
So, I can see a debate for Patrick being written horribly in this one. I will concede that to some degree it is the first step towards post-classic Patrick. Although, here I would argue there is more internal plot logic for this reaction. SpongeBob has hyped this gift up all day. Like, I know it's not SpongeBob's fault Sandy got attacked by a swarm of chocolate-eaten scallops and it fell apart, but he should have had a better plan or tried to help Patrick understand rather than giving him a handshake. Honestly, I love the small character moment of Patrick attempting to explain to SpongeBob that he had expected more given their long friendship. He keeps getting interrupted by others who are thanking SpongeBob for their great gifts, and this irritates him and makes him feel unloved and unwanted. Patrick is not an emotionally secure person. He is essentially an ice cream loving, impulsive child. Of course he was going to erupt in this manner. He isn't emotionally mature enough to handle how he is feeling. For this very specific plot and set of circumstances, it works. I think the modern writers failed to understand the context of it. Modern Patrick would be so upset by the handshake that he would throw SpongeBob off the Ferris wheel and destroy an ice cream truck. SpongeBob would return annoyed that he was thrown from the ride, and Patrick would blankly ask him what's going on. That's the difference here. While I don't think this is the greatest episode of the show, I can kind of appreciate what they were going for here. After all, Patrick had the greatest gift of all along, and it was right there in the carnival with them.
This guy?
Yes, he is the best Valentine's of all. Okay, imagine this, the greatest invention since sliced bread. I present you with a piece of paper. What can this paper do, you might ask? Well, what can't it do? Impressions, a helicopter, a flip book, play music, and even act as a questionable plot device for an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. So the overall plot is very bare for this one. Squidward tries to have a relaxing morning and decides to enjoy some bubblegum, as you do. He throws the wrapper away and it catches SpongeBob's attention. He tries to return it thinking Squidward wants it, despite the fact it is pure rubbish. Squidward declares he doesn't want it. He promises SpongeBob he can keep it and even says don't let him have it back no matter how much he may want it. I wonder where this plot could possibly be going. SpongeBob gets so much mileage out of a piece of paper. In terms of creative ideas and displays of animation, it is such a marvel. But beyond that, there really isn't much else to it. Also, this paper had a sweet in it. Surely there would be some residue, and it would be sticky? That's what genuinely bothers me here. I can see what they were going for. Squidward gets jealous and wants to be having fun like SpongeBob, only he lacks the creativity and childlike optimism and imagination to make this work. It does make sense, I just think future plots like Idiot Box do this story so much better. I think this one just feels too stretched. Maybe if it was like 5 minutes long it would have worked better. I don't think this one was for me, really. Arg is an episode which for the most part has a very basic premise. Mr. Krabs leads SpongeBob and Patrick on a treasure hunt. It's very to the point and illustrates the strengths of the characters' personalities and dialogue back in the first series. Which is especially great considering the episode pretty much only contains the three of them, bar Fred for a cameo and one scene with the Flying Dutchman. Unlike more modern depictions of the show, we see how Mr. Krabs' greed and selfishness act as the arc for the episode, slowly building across the plot to a satisfying conclusion with real comedic consequence, opposed to him just being a horrible, unbearable person for no real reason. The episode's opening works as a great hook for a character like Mr. Krabs, as the board game is based around pirates and a hunt for treasure. Something a character like himself would love and see the real value in. Opposed to SpongeBob and Patrick, who are just looking for some light entertainment the way children would, until their fragile attention spans can't take it, at which point Patrick falls asleep and SpongeBob snaps at Mr. Krabs. This is good, as it shows SpongeBob standing up for himself against his boss. Unlike the modern iteration of the show, he has more emotions than just crying. As the hunt for the Dutchman's doubloons continue, we see Mr. Krabs' obsession with the treasure continue to escalate and worsen, similar to how he was acting at the beginning of the episode with the board game, as if that scene was meant to foreshadow his current behaviour. After the main catalyst for the plot, the board game is revealed to be the treasure map, which is a great piece of continuity. We see Mr. Krabs flip and get ready to assault SpongeBob and Patrick, which is quite dark for a kids show. It is then revealed that they found the X, so SpongeBob and Patrick dig the treasure up. The Dutchman overhears this and appears. He thanks them for their hard work and rewards them with a gold doubloon. Mr. Krabs snaps once again, demanding a reward, at which point he is given a plastic treasure chest which is based on a real treasure chest. This reveal is hilarious, at least to me. It implies that others have come looking based on the board game and the Dutchman has just handed them a plastic chest. In this moment, we see Mr. Krabs completely broken and irritated. This is topped off with the funniest and most unforgiving final line from any episode of the show.
Gee, Mr. Krabs, you're looking all sweaty again.
More than anything, I think this just shows Patrick's obliviousness and how someone like him would grate on Mr. Krabs. Besides, this isn't the only time in the episode where Patrick has unintentionally fried Mr. Krabs in the funniest possible way.
Ensign Patrick, which way is east?
Let's see. That way, Captain!
9,997, 9,998, 9,999, 10,000. Where's the X? Supposed to be right here. 10,000 paces east.
Oh, east? I thought you said west.
West? What kind of compass are you reading, lad?
This one, sir.
That's west, Patrick. You're fired again.
The Weast joke will never not be funny to me. Everything from Patrick's bold confidence to the fact he made them walk all that way for absolutely no reason, along with the sheer stupidity of believing Weast is a direction. I think what makes ARG such a special episode is just how well the three characters bounce off each other. I think an episode like this gives the writers a chance to show the darker side to an otherwise more parental figure at this point in the series, and use every plot beat and every character moment to cleverly break them in the funniest possible way. I'm not even sure where to start with this incredible episode. So as the title implies, this whole episode takes place in rock bottom, both figuratively and literally too, as SpongeBob accidentally ends up alone in the dark. Alright, so after a fun day at Glove World, SpongeBob and Patrick eagerly board a bus to get home. SpongeBob unintentionally annoys the bus driver while searching around for change, so much so that he thinks fish paste and just lets SpongeBob and Patrick on for free. I'm not going to lie. If I knew annoying the bus driver would lead to free fare, then I would do it all the time. Not that I take buses regularly, but in this scenario, I would. SpongeBob and Patrick soon realise they took the wrong bus by accident, and it descends into the depths of rock bottom. For most other characters, I would argue getting the wrong bus would be a bit of a weak plot setup, but this is the kind of thing SpongeBob and Patrick would do. I mean, they're both unaware children, even in the classic run of the show, so it fits them so well. And I mean, annoying the bus driver just makes the whole situation that much funnier. Like, their obnoxious balloon crushes him against the window. It is funny. So immediately, the boys hate rock bottom. For a moment, let's pretend they end up in a more pleasant and just all-around neutral location. The sense of unease would be present. Even now, as an adult, it can be uncomfortable for the first time I'm in a new town or city. So for people like these two with childlike personalities, it must be so overwhelming. But rock bottom is so bleak and topsy-turvy that it adds so much more unease for them. So here they are, essentially two children abandoned in a dark, crooked town with weird sea creatures who speak a different tongue. Well, sort of. They spit in between words, which is weird and different. It is really good setup for a plot, but it's not all that bad. At least they have each other, right? Well, no, Patrick, being the selfish starfish that he is, boards a bus without any recollection for SpongeBob. Look, he does head back and try to get him in the end, but still. The situation thickens as SpongeBob is now alone. It's dark and there are very few landmarks to speak of. We have, what, a bus stop, a bus information building, and a vending machine. Not exactly rich with life. But that's the point. So the town is called Rock Bottom. The bus literally descends down into this soulless town. It's a very clever metaphor for depression. So we all know depression, and most have experienced it at one time or another. I for sure have. It's a horrendous feeling, like you're trapped, isolated and alone without the faintest bit of warmth. Well, that's exactly how SpongeBob is feeling. He has no one to help him. He is literally trapped as the road goes up at a 90-degree angle. Essentially, he is at the bottom of a very dark trench. This sense of isolation and helplessness is pushed via the buses. The show manages to present this darker idea to children via the comedy of these moments, but essentially the buses do so much. For someone who is feeling the weight of a bad depression, the feeling of unease and vulnerability, it feels like there is no escape no matter how much they may try. Well, by extension, SpongeBob cannot get a bus no matter how much he tries. He is literally trapped in rock bottom. It's presented in such a cruel way, humorous at face value, but it's so harsh. Whenever he is stood waiting for a bus to arrive, it just doesn't show up. But the second he moves away or gets distracted, one magically pops up, and he is always missing it. This cruel situation is made worse by a passerby coming along and stealing his chocolate bar. He is in rock bottom, he literally cannot win. I love the lengths this episode goes to with it. So, a character who is briefly introduced at the start is a flamboyant glowing fish who chases SpongeBob's balloon down. At first, this seems throwaway, but he returns and presents SpongeBob with the solution. It's simple, but effectively the stranger gives SpongeBob the much needed kindness he needed to escape rock bottom, which is such a good message for younger viewers. It's so basic, but so effective. Just be kind, because someone probably needs it. I would push this idea one step further and say this guy was SpongeBob's literal light out of the dark. I mean, the writers very easily could have just had a generic fish character fill this role. But they don't. They purposely make it some glowing dude. If he isn't meant to be SpongeBob's guardian angel, his bright light to guide him home, then I don't know what it is. I really loved this resolution, especially as both the balloon and the light fish were set up before. This episode is a masterpiece. I know Menoman thinks this deserves to be in first place, and I don't blame him at all for that. Again, this is an episode that I thought appeared later on in the show. I'm not really sure why, but in my head it is a season 2 episode. This is such an iconic episode and one that Nickelodeon used to rerun all the time in the UK. So yeah, fair to say I have seen this one quite a lot over the years. This is another episode that gives Sandy the spotlight, and I must say she does a good job as the lead. So Sandy is feeling homesick. She misses Texas a lot and is really struggling to cope being away from it lately. It's an interesting hook for an episode, and one that could only really work with her, as she's the only sort of outsider from Bikini Bottom. I mean, she's a squirrel living at the bottom of the ocean, so it makes sense to do this. I actually loved the first mention of this in the episode. Sandy slices sand into the shape of Texas as it is seen on the map, and it's quickly washed away by the ocean. This is such a beautiful visual metaphor. Like Texas, she is currently being washed away by the ocean, all those waves literally keeping her from home. It's something SpongeBob and Patrick don't understand at the beginning. I think, despite their lack of understanding, it goes to show how much SpongeBob and Patrick value her that they attempt to cheer her up anyway. I think the incredible song is a great way to help the rest of Bikini Bottom connect with her and fully understand her feelings. So much so that they all put on a special Texas event for her at the Krusty Krab to make her feel like she's back there. There is clearly so much nice sentiment in this episode. The only sort of opposing points being Patrick's insensitivities, but they were really funny, so I can forgive it.
Do you think she knows the Muffin Man song? Yeah. What's so great about dumb old Texas?
What did you say?
Texas is dumb?
I think this episode carries its message of feeling homesick and being there for your friends when they need you so well. Not to mention a memorable song and some iconic moments. This is a decent watch. This is quite an amusing episode all the way through. So these early SpongeBob episodes really seem to depict Plankton's size and incorporates them well into the stories. Like later in the series, he is a lot bigger, but he is consistently very tiny. Here, he wants to turn Goo Lagoon into the site for the Chum Bucket Mega Bucket. I mean, I'm not sure why he wants to expand when he has no customers. Also, I feel like there's probably landscaping laws in place preventing this decision, but still, it works for plot convenience. Due to his size, no one has taken him seriously, or more accurately, no one really notices him either. Equally, SpongeBob is struggling to enjoy his day at the beach as he is unable to do things he wants to, like get an ice cream as people keep shoving ahead. I'm with Plankton, those other peoples can fish paste off quite frankly. Plankton realizes that SpongeBob is the key to his problem. He has the size and presence to help him complete his plans, so SpongeBob obliviously helps Plankton here. Plankton teaches SpongeBob how to be assertive in order to get what he wants more. These interactions are some of the funniest of the whole season.
There's the guy who took your ice cream. Don't you want it back?
Ice cream!
Listen, you! My friend's got something to say!
What? Who said that? Was it you?
Tell him off, SpongeBob. Assert yourself!
That's my ice cream cone.
Great! Now let him have it!
You can have it. Say thanks!
No!
SpongeBob is just so pure and innocent that he has no idea how to be rude. I mean, eventually he starts delivering, but that's Plankton manipulating him more than anything. Plankton is clearly in the wrong here, but equally Mr. Krabs and Squidward have also manipulated SpongeBob this season for personal gain. So, I guess it is what it is. I loved the loose and wacky designs for the one-off characters this season. They're clearly still figuring stuff out, and in turn we have some of the quirkiest characters I have ever seen from a cartoon. I mean, look at the pencil neck guy for example. I just think this episode is really funny. That seems to be the largest selling point to me. It's essentially Plankton just being a bit of a dick, but it works so well here. But yeah, I actually really liked Fools in April on this watch through today. A lot more than I did before. But the one thing I will say, and I'm pretty sure you're going to disagree with me, but the one thing that I don't think it should have been a joke at the end. I think if Squidward really was sorry and really meant it, I think the joke sort of ruins it a little bit. I think it's stronger if Squidward apologizes, and that's just where it ends.
I agree. I totally agree. I think the final 4 minutes really felt like a really heartfelt like character moment for Squidward, just for it to be taken away. But I think that's the biggest issue with season 1 per se, because season 1 isn't. Season 1 seems to be afraid at times to give character development to characters.
But then I would argue that it has the best moment of the whole show in the series. Like it peaks with one moment, and that's Squidward throwing the pizza over that guy after he makes SpongeBob cry.
That's what I'm saying. That's the only, and that's why people remember that moment, because it felt like character growth for Squidward. And then while this time feels less like character growth, felt like, oh, we got to keep the status quo.
But I feel like if you had removed that scene, it wouldn't have been as good as Pizza Delivery, but it certainly would have been top 5 Squidward moments, like for sure.
That's what I'm saying.
Like I think the Christmas episode comes close. I think Squidward giving everyone presents and like being Santa for SpongeBob, that comes close to it.
So yeah, that's another. I think didn't you say you didn't really like the Christmas episode that much?
I don't particularly like it, but I like the final scene. I think the whole thing is just sort of dragged out. But I do think that Squidward being Santa is like a really good scene. Yeah, even though Squidward takes it too far, like again, I think it's one of those where like, so SpongeBob pulled that prank on him, he believing that art critic or whatever wanted to see his work. Like I feel like Squidward should have known it was a joke because it's April Fool's Day and it's just conveniently an art critic wants to speak to him. But equally, he tried to walk away. He tried to quit his job because he just had enough. And SpongeBob was one who was like, no, Squidward, wait, please don't go and stuff. So, yeah, Squidward took it too far, but SpongeBob really pushed him this episode, I think.
Yeah, I feel it. I totally agree.
In terms of gags, Patrick just digging is still really funny to me. It's like,
it's funny. I will never know to this day. Never know to this day why he was digging.
I think that's the best screw the audience joke in the whole show. But as we said, I think the whole haha, it was a joke sort of ruins the ending.
Yeah, I think if this came out in a different season, they wouldn't have done the joke. They would have let it. They would have played it straight.
Yeah, I guess that is the season 1 suffering. You like the Ice Cube gag, which is funny.
I do. I like the Ice Cube gag. It's funny. I reference this every time I go to a restaurant to see if they get the reference. They never do, and it's funny though.
I think SpongeBob drawing a face on his back and turning away is quite funny as well.
Yeah.
So hey, what happened to the other guy?
Here I am.
The extreme first is funny.
April Fools to me.
I quite like that all you hear is the voice of that person going, you stink, and then during the flashback where Squidward remembers everything, it's just like an elderly octopus who's just giving him abuse.
Exactly.
And the guy who's like, April Fool's joke. This really was from the gods, huh? Well, this is interesting, as it's the first episode to introduce King Neptune into the main series. I bet you thought I was done saying that this video. Well, I thought so too, but here we are. So in this episode, SpongeBob and Patrick visit the Fry Cook Museum. No idea why there's a whole museum dedicated to a specific strand of cooking, but here we are. They're having a great time. Patrick has taken photos of everything like the little paparazzi that he is. This is where they come across the spatula and the grease, which is essentially a play on various mythology. Like British folklore of King Arthur and the sword in the stone. I specifically thought of that scene from Merlin where King Arthur pulls Excalibur from the stone, so that's really cool. Our boy Neptune pops up and begins his search for the royal chef, and can't seem to accept that it was SpongeBob who pulled the spatula. I mean, an Atlantean fry cook needs to have red underwear, no blue. So I don't really know if SpongeBob fits the bill anyway. Also, it just occurred to me that Atlantis Squarepantis retcons the whole Atlantis thing later on in the show. Neptune continues interrogating people he believes to be owners of the spatula but keeps coming up short during his search. Larry and Neptune have a Chad contest, which is kind of cringe more than anything else. Eventually he concedes that SpongeBob released the spatula from the grease and agrees to a contest to determine whether or not he is worthy. I actually love this scene, especially Patrick heckling the king. Honestly, all jokes alone, this is quite sweet actually. I think it shows how much he values SpongeBob and that he has his best friend's back. I mean, he's telling the king how great and talented he is, which is fair. Kind of ironic actually that Patrick is literally talking out of his ass during this episode, considering how well he is written. Along with the fact that post-movie he will be talking out of his ass most of the time anyway. Funny episode.
I think it's time to talk about the final episode of Hooky, the season 1 finale, which I don't think fits as a season 1 finale, but you know.
Pizza delivery should be.
I think Pizza Delivery should have been the season finale. It fits thematically as we started at the Krusty Krab, we ended the Krusty Krab. Not to say Hooky isn't bad. Hooky isn't bad. I think it's a decent metaphor for addiction or whatever. I just don't go back to Hooky like that.
I don't know. I don't dislike Hooky. I think there's some good jokes in it. I quite like seeing Mr. Krabs as sort of like an authoritarian figure to SpongeBob. I think he's at his best, where he's almost like a role model.
Yeah. Also, I think this is the first time. Like I said, this is during the era where Patrick wasn't dumb to be dumb. He was more dumb. He was more naive, dumb.
Yeah, you can tell that he still values SpongeBob a lot, and that's at the core of his character.
I feel like in much later episodes, he wouldn't even understand what Mr. Krabs was saying. Like, there's other episodes in I think season 2 and season 3 where he couldn't even read it. He couldn't read a tape, but he could read something here. So this is weird, you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example in the classic era where Patrick is just brain dead. The lifeguard episode. Yeah,
it's like instead of he read caution tape as ice cream. And then instead of letting SpongeBob save him, he broke the boat that SpongeBob brought him in, so they both started drowning.
Yeah, that sounds like Patrick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Hooky here is decent. I still people still ask me how does Squidward hook SpongeBob that way. I know, I already figured it out, and I will say it now. He went to the top of the Krusty Krab where there's a lid. We see in later episodes there's a lid there. He hooked him from there, and then he went down and then walked down. That's how he hooked him.
Yeah, it makes sense when you say it like that. It just without the hatch, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Unless Squidward was just somewhere much higher. Like Squidward could have been on top of the chum bucket. I do sort of think
either way it works, but I think it's the hatch. The hatch makes the most sense. That's why he was in the Krusty Krab when it happened. So
yeah, I do think that SpongeBob becoming like completely naked was taking it too far though. Like slammed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, but this time it wasn't just Squidward; it was Mr. Krabs. So.
But then do you think Mr. Krabs was taking it too far in showing SpongeBob that lesson? Like, I get it, but it's dangerous. Mr. Krabs wanted to show SpongeBob it, but...
I think it depends on how you see it. For me, I don't think it's too far because that's a lesson. That's what my parents would do. They do something like that to me, to teach me a lesson. But then it depends on like how you... I think it depends on how discipline works for you. If that makes sense.
Like you said, it's Patrick's oblivious, like, stupidness, like just thinking it's a carnival and just having a fun time. And I guess there's also Hooky, like he's ditching work, he's playing hooky. That's another sort of parallel to it.
Which is I think this is like the first episode he does this because he does it again with the jellyfish episode.
Oh, was that where he decides to just live with jellyfish?
Yeah.
Well, I guess there he actually quits his job rather than just ditches.
He ditches at first and then quits because like he was still on the clock when he saw the jellyfish.
Then yeah, I guess it's the second time that he does that. This is what I mean, like, this version of SpongeBob in the classic era, like, he likes his job, but it's not his entire personality. Like, he is willing to go and do something else. Whereas, like, season 4 or 5 SpongeBob, leaving the Krusty Krab would be, like, sacrilege. But yeah, Hooky's fine. I don't have a lot of... Like, I like it. I don't have anything against it. I think it's a fine episode.
I thought it was a decent episode as well.
Sure, why not end the series on a sequel episode? This time, we're revisiting Bikini Bottom's retired superheroes once more. So, Spring Boob SquarePin, SpongeBob SquarePants, wins a contest for his Krabby Patty sculpture of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. I kinda wish they showed us the process of him making that because it actually seems really cool. He ends up winning the conch signal. I assume it's the in-universe version of the bat signal for when you want to summon Batman. SpongeBob uses the signal and is shocked to find that the two crime fighters arrive at his home. Now, SpongeBob becomes addicted to blowing this device as he just wants to spend time with his heroes. But normally it's for mundane things like housework or opening a jar of mayonnaise, not, crime or whatever. Eventually, they're both exhausted and have enough. I don't blame them. They're pensioners and SpongeBob is summoning them every few minutes for essentially nothing. If I had a magic button that made Danny DeVito appear to hang out, I would press it all the time. I do possibly think his tears are a slight over-exaggeration though. I mean, I know he has a childlike demeanour, but this felt like a step too far, even in the classic era. I think SpongeBob attacking the atomic flounder was funny. Clearly Barnacle Boy was joking about him returning to a life of crime. I do love that SpongeBob took it literally and began trying to stop him from committing any crimes, when in reality he is just another pensioner waiting for the bus. I think it's a nice resolution that SpongeBob saves the elderly crime fighters from an actual villain, despite the fact they literally attempted to ditch him, which is kind of harsh, even if he has a lot to deal with. On the whole, I found this one funnier than the first episode. I still don't think it's the best, but I'll give it a slight edge over the other one. Okay, here we go, the ranking of all these episodes. Well, this has been a lot of fun to make. It has taken me quite a while to do, but I did enjoy the project. If you did too, then I would appreciate a like and a subscribe. If you have any thoughts of your own on this series, then please let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to read it. I will link my buddy Meadowman's YouTube channel in the description. Please check out his great content, it's definitely worth your time. Right then, I will see you all very soon.